Zoe Shumper was born September 3rd, 2003 at Camp Pendleton, California. Her mother's name is Catherine Moore and her father's name is Andrew Shumper. She's a student at Country Hills School. Zoe's father is Andrew Shumper. He is a manager at a golf course. Zoe's dad was in the military when her mom was pregnant with her. When Zoe's dad was in the military, he went to war in February, and it was called Operation Enduring Freedom. On March 13th, Saddam Hussein shot missiles at them at 10:39 a.m., and that was the official start of the war. The missile hit right outside of the front gate. That threw Zoe's dad right out of his bed. That continued for 2 weeks. Then the enemies ran out of missiles. In May of 2003, he went to Basra International Airport. There was an equipment check, and then he came home shortly after that, and then Zoe was born. His unit was the communication unit for the entire American side of the war.
My mother is Catherine Moore. She is a salesperson and student. My mom will be the first person in our family to get a master's degree. An interesting story from when my mom was starting college in 2001 is that on September 11th, she got a gun put to her head. What happened was, she was waking up and she got a call from her professor. He called her because she was the news editor for the newspaper, and he asked her why she wasn't there yet. No one had told her what was going on, so she turned on the news and she thought it was a movie. So she got ready and went to the news office, and they told her to go get stories from people. She saw people on every street holding American flags or signs. When she went to get an interview at the federal building, and when they got there, they pointed a gun at her and her cameraman and told them to go away. My grandfather is William Moore. He was born on September 9th, 1956, in California. He works at Maxon. He has 2 children. My grandfather is still living. He loves to golf.
Zoe's grandmother is Dawn Dravenstadt. She works at a credit union. She has 2 children. She was born on September 15th, 1956, in Michigan. An interesting story about when Zoe's grandma was little is that when she was going to a friend's house, her little brother had a crush on her friend, so he tried to get there first. He pushed her down the stairs and she chipped a tooth. That is how Zoe's grandma got the nickname Chip. Another interesting story about Zoe's grandma is that she is a 2-time cancer survivor.
Next, I will talk about my grandpa Bart. He worked for Chrysler. He assembled cars. In his 40s, he had a stroke, and now he spends most of his free time with his grandchildren that live nearby. He lives in Illinois. Next, I will talk about my grandma Roberta. She has been married twice. She lives in Illinois. She has 4 children and 3 grandchildren. Next, I will tell you about Jerome Shumper. He worked for Chrysler, and he was in the Navy. Next, I will tell you about my great-grandpa John W. Moore. He had 4 children and was an engineer.
Zoe's great-grandmother's name was Lillian Scholdegger. Her mother and father were both born in Norway, and she was the first in her family to be born in the United States. She was born in Wisconsin in 1921 and died in California on Christmas of 1998. Another of Zoe's great-grandfather's name was Norm Dravenstadt. His mother was Edna Faye Wade, and his father was Walter C. Dravenstadt. He had 3 children, James, Dawn, and Ronald. Dawn is Zoe's grandmother. His birth date was November 24th, 1930, and he was born in Michigan. He died on March 20th, 2008, in California. He was a janitor, but he also served in the military and was in active duty during the Korean War. Norm's wife's name is Betty Lutz. Her mother's name is Nona K. Stearns, and her father's name is Ford Selner Lutz. Betty was born March 2nd, 1933 in Michigan, and she is still alive. She's retired now, but when she was working, she worked for the school district in the bus depot, and she also ran a printing press. She has 3 children whose names are James, Don, and Ronald. And an interesting fact about Betty is before she fell in love with and married Norm Dravenstadt, she actually dated Dale Dravenstadt, Norm's brother.
Now I will tell you a little bit about Carol Ringdahl. She had 4 children, was born in Wisconsin, and died in Illinois. Now I will tell you a little bit about Donald R. Wendt. He had 5 children, worked at Chrysler. He was born in Illinois and died in Illinois.
Donald's wife, Rose Wykowiak, was born July 17, 1933 in Illinois and had 5 children. Here are some photos of Zoe's grandmother and her family from when Zoe's grandmother was a child. And now some photos of Zoe's great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents and their families.
Now, some pictures of my great-great-great-grandparents and my great-great-great-great-grandparents. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed learning about my family tree.